Do you smell that? It's the smell of heaven, coming from a bakery that pumps fresh pastry smell right out into the street. That smell is called a trigger, and it can lead to overeating. Triggers can lead to an urge. For example, the urge to eat a pastry. If you feed the urge, you'll get temporary pleasure. Perhaps the urge can be satisfied by eating a half-gallon of ice cream or an entire pizza. But in the end, the overeating event will cause remorse, which is typically followed by a sense of renewed commitment until the trigger happens all over again. The bottom line is that food scientists know how to get you to eat more of their food. It's what they do. They know how to trigger you so that you'll eat as much as possible. When you smell delicious food, that's a trigger. You know what else is a trigger? The larger portion sizes served at many restaurants. But you can beat these scientists at their own game by sharing your meal with someone or asking the server to put half your food in a take-home bag before you even get it. At home, you can beat them by serving meals using smaller plates, bowls, and cups. Other triggers include seeing other people eat. Go to any party and you'll realize that eating is a favorite pastime. Did you know that when two people share food socially, they're likely to eat 35% more food? And when people eat in groups of 7 or more, they're likely to eat 96% more food. Just knowing how eating with others can impact your own eating behavior may help you. Maybe your trigger is related to easier food access. Today, it's easier to overeat because there are more opportunities to get food than in the past. Just think about the number of fast food joints that have popped up in the past few years. At grocery stores, there's no shortage of food either. The reality is that for every man, woman, and child in developed countries, there are over 4,000 calories available every day. Nearly all of us can do just fine on half of that. Your triggers can also be emotional. Maybe when you're highly stressed, depressed, or lonely, you tend to overeat. No matter what causes your trigger, it's important to point out that overeating doesn't mean you lack willpower. For most of us, most of the time, we have simply been manipulated by these triggers to encourage overeating. Just the same, a person who consistently overeats is enslaved by this habit in much the same way as an addictive disorder. It turns out that your brain has a region that's responsible for food cravings. So it's not surprising to see a box of donuts and unconsciously eat half of them. These urges become so ingrained that the response is almost automatic. From PET scan studies, scientists know that the region associated with cravings lights up when triggered by an environmental cue such as a smell. The good news is that you can retrain your brain to light up when you give it healthier food. It all starts with how you manage triggers. Remember, a trigger forms an urge, which leads to a reward, which is often followed by remorse. Your task this week is to think about what triggers overeating for you. What foods are you drawn to? What are your surroundings? What are you thinking or feeling? With whom do you typically overeat? We know this is difficult, but if you are to overcome overeating, you need to come to grips with your triggers. You can do this.